Here we are, Location Luxe. I'm your host, Alan Canas, and here in Season 1, we'll be focused on what we're calling the Great Lifestyle Migration. On each episode, I'll be right here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Over the last few decades, we've witnessed a great migration for employment and technology development. As such, the need and demand for homes has been among the highest in the country. These migration choices are giving people an extraordinary opportunity to explore new locations, amenities, and lifestyle options. And that's why we're here. Location Luxe. This week, I am so pleased to welcome on location a very special colleague, friend of mine, Trinkie Watson from Lake Tahoe. Trinkie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to join you. This is very exciting for Lake Tahoe.
Oh, it's exciting for all of us. So, Trinkie, today you're going to take us through how Lake Tahoe is not only a destination location, it's a beautiful lifestyle. But Trinkie, before you take us through that, please tell us a little bit about you, your business, and Trinkie, where are you?
Right now, I'm in Tahoe Vista, the north end of Lake Tahoe. And as you can see behind me is our beautiful lake with snow-capped mountains. I've been at Tahoe for many, many years and handle real estate in the whole Lake Tahoe region, including the Nevada side.
So one of the things that people don't realize is that Tahoe has actually 4 sides, but most people know about Tahoe's South Tahoe and North side. Can you tell us a little bit about the 2 different sides and their taxes?
Nevada, it does not have any personal state income tax. So that has been a big, big draw, especially for people coming from California, those who've sold their businesses or are in a position to make a move. If your income is coming from California, it doesn't work because California will tax you on whatever income you make. There's no question, Nevada, the Reno Sparks market, the whole Nevada side has really enjoyed a huge uptick in business in the last few years, and this last year even more so.
Well, I know for my family, we've been coming to Tahoe for many, many years. And so recently we took advantage and we purchased a cute little house. And we bought right at the right time. The market is just booming there. And what transpired is we closed escrow in July, and within a few months, we received offers for $50,000 to $75,000, then $100,000 over the asking price in the mail. So your market is just, I mean, it's booming out there. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing for houses on the market. Are they as is? What condition can buyers expect?
Well, that's a good question. You know, our properties range from original cabins from the 50s on up to beautiful new properties. So today, most buyers want something that's done. And so I would say that most sellers make an effort to update as much as they can. Not everything is, and we do see some come on the market. One came on in Tahoe Donner this morning, just over $500,000. It's a 2-bedroom, no garage, and that'll sell for $50,000, probably $60,000, $70,000 over. I just had an offer on a house in Tahoe Donner it was listed at little over $700,000, and I think it's going out at $8,000. I mean, it's been bizarre. It really is. There's a house in Incline that came on the market yesterday. It sold 2 years ago for $2.5 million, and it's on the market now for $4.3 million, and the realtors think it's going to sell very close to that. So
wow.
Our inventory is so low, and that of course helps push prices up.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You know, people have grandeur of being on the lake. And, you know, just having a sliver of a lake view to having full on lake view, how does that affect your property value? I'm being told it affects it immensely.
No, that's true. I mean, being on the water is one thing, having a lake view is another. And that could be, $100,000 more in value, depending on where it is, how big the house is, that kind of thing. So big lake views are certainly valuable. Being on the water is very, very special.
And so, Trinkie, what seasonal activities are we seeing in Lake Tahoe?
Just about all year long, you can be outdoors. In the wintertime, of course, we have all kinds of winter sports. It's skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, backcountry skiing. That's very popular. And also snowmobiling in certain areas is very popular. In the summertime, of course, we have all kinds of water sports, many golf courses in our area, hiking and bike riding. There's a big emphasis on bike trails around the lake. We can't go the whole way around on a bike trail yet, but that's a goal for the area someday, that you'll be able to do that. So, and in the fall, it's gorgeous. Our falls are beautiful, and there's still wonderful hiking and biking, that kind of thing. And the same, depending on what our spring does. Sometimes we have a late snow, and then it's problematic getting into the mountains. But this year so far, we haven't had a lot of snow. So it kind of depends on what the weather's doing as far as what you can do outside. But I'd say there's activity outdoors all year long.
And would you say the people that are purchasing right now, are they buying for first home or second home?
We're seeing both. Probably the majority are second. I think people are keeping their primaries, but we've had a huge uptick in school enrollment. So that tells us that a lot of people are moving up here to live full time.
And I know from where we're at in California, we have an influx of buyers coming into Lake Tahoe. Where would you say most of your buyers are coming from? Is it from California, or is it from other areas as well?
No, historically, I would say that we've been 50-60% for sure from the Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area, and I think that'll continue. We're 2 to 4 hours driving distance away, and depending on what time of day you travel. So I think we'll always see that huge amount of buyers from your area. I mean, your area has done really well too. Tell us about that.
Our area is hot. It is just, it has not slowed down. In fact, it's like somebody lit the flame, turned the flame up even higher. And so what we're seeing is multiple offers just being generated over and over and over. And so we're not slowing down where we thought we were going to slow down. Interest rates are at an all-time low. The buying power has even gotten stronger. We're seeing corporations moving their businesses out of state, but others are moving their businesses in the area. And so what we're seeing is that the rental market has slowed down, where the buyers are able to purchase where they were not able to purchase before. And then again, the second home market, people are purchasing, we're in Lake Tahoe, like what we're doing now, what my family did. So it is strong here. And that's what we're seeing. Like I said, Lake Tahoe become very strong. The surrounding areas, the outer areas, become very strong as well for second home markets.
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot of buyers, certainly from your area, and many of whom are able to buy lakefront properties. And our lakefront inventory is very low as well. We've never seen it like this, ever.
Well, and what makes Lake Tahoe so desirable as well, and this I did not realize until recently, how easy it was to get in and out of Lake Tahoe, not just, driving, of course, but flying, your airport. We have friends that live up the street, they are buying an airplane, and they're talking about how easy it is just to get in and out using the Tahoe airport. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, well, we have several choices. We have, of course, the Reno Tahoe International Airport is about anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour away from most locations. And then those with private planes, the Trinkie Airport's one of the most popular and busiest, I understand, in the country. And so we have a huge number of jets that fly in every single day for people who have homes at sort of the north end of the lake. Then down in your area, at the south end, the Minden Airport would probably be the one that most people would use. So we have choices, and you can also fly private into the Reno. There's an executive airport there too. Also, for air service, there are probably 2 or 3 charter jet services that come into Trinkie. So that makes it easy for people coming from LA or the Bay Area to come in privately. It's really a lovely way to travel.
So Trinkie, you're not from Lake Tahoe, correct?
No, I was born and raised in San Francisco.
So what has kept you in Lake Tahoe? What brought you there? What's kept you there?
Well, I was on a ski, after college, I was on a ski trip with some friends. We went to Sun Valley and Aspen, and on the way back, I said, let's stop in Squaw Valley. So I ran into a friend who had just bought a vacation home in Squaw. And so I said, well, how would you feel about renting it to me for a year? And so we had an agreement. They came up to ski in the wintertime, and they didn't use it at all in the summer. So I thought, well, great, I'll try it for a year. So I did, and I stayed.
Wow. Well, you know what? I did not think that we were going to be purchasing a second home in Lake Tahoe. And now I can't wait to go there time and time again. In fact, we're going to be heading there in a few days. And once we're there, I hunker down, and don't get me wrong, I can't wait to get back to the Bay Area at times as well, but I love Tahoe. It's gorgeous. We're literally 2 houses from the beach.
I know. Yeah, it's fabulous. I can't tell you how grateful I am that I live where I do, especially this past year. But I love it. It's fun to go to the city and visit and travel and that kind of thing, but home is home, and I've got my dog and my house, and I'm very, very happy here.
So tell me about the home prices, the various different prices, because I know you can go from one price and then jump all the way to exceeding high end. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Right now, I think probably the least expensive single-family home around the lake would be around $400,000. South Lake Tahoe has probably more more homes at that level, in the lower level, more cabins, I should say, than probably some of the other areas around the lake. And then depending on the area you're in, some communities are less expensive than others, but then you zoom the whole way up to, right now we've got a couple of properties that are over 40 million. And of course, those are beautiful estates right on the lake. So it goes the gamut. Kind of hard to find anything under $1 million anymore. I was just hearing today that our median price in our North Tahoe region area is now just over $1 million. I mean, that's amazing.
And why do you think most people are migrating to Lake Tahoe?
Well, I think since so many of them are coming from the Bay Area, it is it's close enough proximity. They don't have to get on a plane. It's an easy drive. So I think it's just a natural for people to want to explore this area and not have to go a long distance. Plus, all the amenities we have. We have great restaurants, we have wine tasting, we have wine bars, art galleries, in the summertime, outdoor concerts. I mean, there's a lot going on in the area. So there's something for everybody, really.
So can you tell us a little bit about, if somebody was going to buy a primary residence, how are the schools up there?
Well, I don't have kids, so I'm probably not the best one to ask, but we send an awful lot of kids to college, and there are a couple of private schools up here for people that want to do that. But we have a thriving public school system, and we seem to get everybody through, so I think we're okay.
Well, one thing that I know that you do have is that you've got a ski camp, because I have an 8-year-old and she's been skiing, and they've wanted her to get into ski camp, and you've got ski teams. So she can't wait to start that. She's going to do that next year. So, and then you have summer camps. So she can't wait to do that.
That's right. No, that's true. And Squaw Valley has its program. There's so much focus on skiing for the family and for the kids and all, engaging everybody. So that's always good. And there are a lot of families that specifically come to Tahoe in the winter for that reason, to put their kids in ski school.
Well, and the people that live there, from what I have experienced, are just so friendly, and they are so outgoing to be welcoming to the newcomers.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And yes, I would agree. I think that, it's great. I think those of us that live here love it so much. They were nice.
So with the limited inventory right now, are you seeing multiple offers?
Absolutely. There was a house again, I go back to Tahoe Donner. I just happened to be working with a client who's been looking there. And there was a house they were interested in, and when we heard there were 14 offers on it already, we decided not to jump in. And then we made a bid on another house, and it had 12 offers, and that's the one that I think went out at 800. They didn't quite get to that level, and so instead they ended up, we're just putting a lot in escrow for them, and they're going to build a house.
When a house is put on the market and has been in a family estate for so long, can there be certain building restrictions that the estate has put on the house when it's passed on?
I've not seen that. We have our own set of restrictions. In the Tahoe Basin itself, we have the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I call it the head mother. And everything that is impacted on the outside has to be approved by them. So if an older property is going to be remodeled or rebuilt or redone, then that would involve agency input to comply with the rules and restrictions, that kind of thing for the area. When you get out of the basin, like in the Trinkie area, the local, you've got your local permits and everything, but you don't have the severity of restriction that you do at the lake.
Okay, that's good to know. That is actually great to know. So, Trinkie, I have a question that I love to ask. Do you have a favorite buyer story?
Oh my goodness. I probably don't, because I just would hope all my buyers are really happy, and I've enjoyed working with every single one of them, and they're always so excited when escrow closes and they can move in. So it's a happy business to be in.
I feel the same way. I do. That's great. So, Trinkie, what a thrill it's been for you to be here on season 1 of Location Luxe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, this has been a truly a wonderful treat for me, and I'm just so excited to be able to showcase Lake Tahoe and our beautiful region. And I'm thrilled to be part of the Realm program to start this series going. Thank you, Alan, so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you again. Lake Tahoe is truly, truly beautiful. Thank you.
Hey design friends, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and today on Creative Voices, I have a very special talent. She is equal parts artist and anthropologist, and we have lots of work and stories to share on that one, and activist, founding the Black Artists and Designers Guild. She designs sculptural ceramic tiles and vessels, mixed media paintings, hand-woven rugs. That could go on, by the way. And she continues to evolve her craft, share African heritage with the global audience. It's been quite the journey about knowing herself, her enormous talent, and being empowered. This is the creative voice of my friend, Melanie Barnett. Hi, Melanie.
Hey, Cindy.
I'm so happy to have this time with you and kind of share your whole story with everybody.
Oh, well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So thanks for the invitation.
Always, always. It's kind of nice we call it Creative Voices, because I think as a designer, you're always on a journey to find your voice. And you've, through a lot of trials and struggles, you really have found a very strong one that is very empowering to so many people. So I'm really excited to get to that. So, but first I want to know, Melanie, let's back up a little. And were you a creative kid?
Yeah, actually, I've been drawing ever since I was 8 years old. Like most children, we got our paints and everything, but my art teacher saw something more in me. And so then I got enrolled into an artistically talented program and in third grade. And we would draw and paint on a weekly basis. And that was like my introduction to art. of course, at that age, you know, you're not thinking about it as
Right.
like, oh, this is something special or anything. You know, it's just what I did. And I really enjoyed working in paint at the time and drawing with pencil.
Was there anybody in your family who like had a creative spirit? Was your mom creative?
Oh yeah, I come from a legacy of creators.
Ah,
Actually, it goes far back as my grandmother on my mother's side. She was a fashion designer and she's
ah,
very talented, did a lot of hand beading. She could make anything. And then my mother, she was also, she taught me how to sew. She did macrame. She was really into the crafts and she always would decorate the house. And actually my father, he painted as well. And then I have many various family members who are, you know, in the creative arts in different forms. So I've always been around, you know, the art. It just, you know, never thought about it any other way of living.
right.
It was present in my life.
Yeah. No, I always say like, ask somebody, you know, go back to the beginning and in 5 minutes you have their story, right? Because it's like,
true.
oh, that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
But you know, we found each other through the carpet, the rug trade, right? And so how did you end up there?
Well, it's interesting. I went to FIT, Cindy, right? Fashion Institute of
Yeah.
Technology, New York City. And at the time, I did start out as a fashion illustrator. And to be honest, I knew from my classmates that I was not going to make a career in fashion illustration. I just wasn't, you know, I wasn't the top of my game when it came to that. But I had a professor who said to me, and she called us all by our last name. So she was like, Barnett, Barnett, like, what are you going to do? And at that time, I said, you know what, Professor Ishikawa, I'm going into textile design. And she said to me, she goes, you know what, that's going to be the best thing for you. And that's where I found
Wow.
rug design. So it's because of when I decided to do my bachelor's in textile design, I was able to design, draw, paint, and then I was able to make a product. And so that was like the perfect match for me at the time.
Ah, yeah. So it always takes like somebody to see something in you and like direct it, you know? We
Yeah.
say you could have gone left, you could have gone right, but like that was amazing, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, because, you know, the work I was doing then, and I think it still transcends now, is that I was really into pattern and color, and
Yeah,
it really translated well for surfaces. And when I found rug design, where it was like this large surface,
yeah,
and I got to play with fibers and materials of different sorts, and then pile heights and different weave constructions, I got real excited about that.
yeah, yeah. And we both have a history of being in the rug industry, you know, which is kind of funny. So when we met, you can tell the story, but when we met, it was like, oh, I need to know her.
Shall we tell? Shall we
Yeah, go ahead, you tell them.
Okay. Well, you
Yeah,
know, I don't know if you know this, Cindy. I mean, there was an event, you know, this is early on when I first started Melanie B,
yeah,
right? And I would scour the magazines and, you know, I want to know who the editors were. And, you know, I was doing my homework. And, you know, Interior Design Magazine was on my list of, hey, this is a place where I'd want to be featured or, you know, I want them to know about me.
yeah.
And so, of course, I knew of your name, you know,
Mhm.
it was an event and everybody was flocking around you. I was like, oh, who is she? Who is she? And then
Oh,
someone told me, and I was like, oh, so that's who Cindy is,
ah,
right? So I was able to put the name in the face, right?
yeah,
And it wasn't until the show in Las Vegas, the hospitality show,
right.
where I did a day in and day out. So what's that? The red eye, right?
Yeah.
I can't even think about the term because I haven't flown in so long.
My God, I know it's crazy, right?
But it was a red eye. I was going to Vegas show for the day because I wanted to learn more about that show and again, connect with more potential partners. And so that flight coming back was that JetBlue flight. And I saw you in line. I was like, that's Cindy Allen that I saw at the event. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to say something to her. But I waited until we got on the plane. And then just so happened you weren't sitting too far from me.
Right.
And I reached out and I said, hey, what do I have to lose? She could just say, hey, you know, but you didn't. You embraced me. You said, you know what? Let me give you my assistant's number and you should come into my office.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
that's how it started, right?
that's how it started. I
Yeah.
introduced myself. I told you what I did and, you know, you connected with me. And, you know, the next thing I know, I was in your office and we were having conversation and we're still talking to this day. And
Yeah,
that was 2000, that was in 2010.
yeah, isn't that crazy? So to make a long story short, we ended up publishing Melanie and the Transitions collection. And I still remember really how beautiful it was, but also like how deeply connected you were to the heritage of place. And those were different. Those were not your home, because one was Mexico, as I remember, right? But that was that connection to tradition and doing something new to it, was really your talent.
Yes, yes, and it still runs through me to this day.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and I think it's only gotten stronger.
Yeah.
And knowing, we always say, like, know yourself, that was maybe even some of the struggle that you endured over a period of time.
Yeah, because Cindy, my core has always been present in my work, and when you're learning about your own culture and heritage and place, and then you put it out to the world, and then you're trying to sell it. It's a challenge, and and then what I had to realize was that maybe this part of me, it doesn't connect with the end result, meaning the material in this way and for the end use. Because when we think about rugs, they're being placed on the floor and in environments, and it's and they make spaces beautiful. They are game changing. But I think that the heritage and the histories that I wanted to talk about needed to change mediums. And to your point of with my introduction of all these different materials that I've explored, I realized it was time to explore other materials to tell my story.
Right. I mean, honestly, it makes so much more sense that you opened up your world, and by speaking out, because you spoke out about the inequities in our world. And because you were able to do that, first of all, you were the same girl that I met on that plane with that courage, and, but because you were able to find that inner courage to be like, you opened the door for many talent, and that's not only a huge deal, it's like an enormous deal, lady.
Yes,
But also for yourself. So what was that like?
Well, it was, I was at a point, Cindy, where I had taken a sabbatical from the business, because I really had to take a step back. And you take a step back from things, you're able to see from a different perspective.
Yeah.
It was very hard to like really get perspective on an industry, on the business while you're like in it,
Right.
because there's always this fear, Cindy, and
Mhm.
and I'll speak to my colleagues, specifically Black artists and designers who are in the business. There's this constant fear of, if I do blah, 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 I may not. So it's always there. And so I got to the point where I said, you know what? I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. And guess what? My ancestors did not do what they did for me to be in this position and not use the tools and the opportunities and the space in a different way.
Right.
So that's when I said, I took that pause, and that pause really changed my life for that time, and I was glad that I did. And that's when I was able to say, you know what, it's time that we pretty much air out that dirty laundry that has been there and no one is saying anything anymore. And, like my mother always taught me, you work with what you have. And at the time it was social media.
Yeah.
And, I said, listen, hey, I'll put it out. What do I have to lose, Cindy? Like at the end of the day, when I thought about it, like really, what do I have to lose?
Right.
Either people are going to say, I'm crazy, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or they're going to say, you know what? I'm glad you said that. I've been feeling that way. Thank you for putting this out. It's actually giving me the courage now to speak out in whatever space that I am actually navigating through. And that's really what happened. And that's what I wanted to happen, for everyone to realize that they're a leader and that they have the power to change those spaces and the dynamics of how people treat you and how you want to be treated. Like, it is possible. That respect, the pay, the level of creativity for the opportunities to be creative, they should be afforded to you.
Yeah.
And, but you have to understand there's a lot of trauma and mental instabilities that we've been navigating for so long, that we've been so numb to the system that it's very hard to really think about what is possible, because so many possibilities have not been available. And that's what I've been trying to get people to see. Like, listen, there are many opportunities, and guess what? You have a right to them, but you have to believe that.
Right, right. It's true. It's true. And so so that's how organically the Black Artists and Designers Guild started, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And you know, Cindy, it's been something that's been on my mind for many years, not knowing what to call it, not knowing how to
Yeah.
form. Because when I travel, I've traveled to many countries around the world. And when I do, I generally, I reach out to those Black artists and designers globally, because I know what the challenges are like. I'm challenged, it's challenged in America, it's challenged all over the world, you know? And so because when we're in these circles, we're usually one of few.
Right.
And, you know, and so it was always been my thing. And of course, social media has helped to connect us even
Yeah.
more.
Mhm.
So there's no filters there. And, you know, I got to that point again, because I was on that pause, like, you know what? We have the internet. We have this. Let's just get together. Let's create that safe
Yeah.
space. And that's what we did. It started as a directory and it's grown to become so much more.
Yeah, and there's something really lovely about because we'll talk about, like, you have a fabric collection coming out that's through the guild, and what I love so much is also that it's a collaboration of voices, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And it was purposely set up that way because the idea of having many voices versus just one, the industry is used to, it's been designed so only one of us could come through, which again, the Guild is about trying not to disseminate that no, many of us can come through and be heard and be seen and be hired. So the opportunity for us to collaborate was, you know, the first of many, we hope, you
Yeah.
know, setting the foundation of, you know, what's possible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to say something. First of all, you know, I've always looked at, interior design, sort of my responsibility as a global magazine of design. And in that way, we are starved for those voices. We really are. And so I feel sorry that you were going through that, especially like knowing you. And I saw you growing in your career in different times, because so what happens is when you publish somebody for the first time and then they start getting published by
Yes.
other, I remember Wendy Goodman did your apartment. I just get really proud of that.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm sad that I didn't know all your struggles.
Yeah, well, you know, Cindy, the challenge within the challenge, you know, because when people see me in publications all the time, right? They think everything is, oh my gosh, it gets all these accolades, and
Right.
but it did not translate into my bank account, and I
Right.
think that's the reality, you know. I was hustling. I didn't have a staff. Like I still wasn't, you know, I didn't have a team for me. But people think, because again, you know, I think like you as an editor of a magazine, you know the power in it, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what happens is I think there's this disconnect between the public and these publications. It doesn't necessarily equate that the person has a thriving business.
Right. Right. No, that's true. That's true. And you were so young. I mean, you seem really young. You still seem young, but you were so young. Like, she was taking, for everyone out there, she was taking on, the handmade carpet, industry, which is tough to do. Like, you went to the toughest of the tough. But anyway, yes, I completely understand. Well, but since speaking out and also being a positive force, let's face it, you are a positive force for change.
Yes.
And that is your message, which I think is a beautiful one. So there's a lot of fun stuff, that you're doing right now, and I definitely want to share it. So let's talk about the S. Harris collaboration.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Yeah. So it was called the Origin collection, right?
Yes.
And celebrating Indigenous craft and traditions. And
Yes.
so who of the group?
Mhm.
And by the way, do you call yourself bad, or what do you call yourself?
We go between badge, you know,
Oh,
BAD,
badge.
right? Sometimes it's Bad Guild because that's our Instagram account.
Yeah, that's
But,
cute.
we're trying to just coin badge, and then
Badge. Okay, so
yeah,
all right. So
but
who from Badge?
it's all good,
Yeah,
we don't mind the multiple names.
yeah.
But the team consisted of Raymond Boozer, um, Beth Diana Smith, Aaron Shakur, and Linda Hazlett, and myself. And so there are 5 creatives. Raymond was tasked to figure out where in the world are we going to be inspired from. And so we came up with these 3 regions, not necessarily specific countries, regions. We looked at East Africa, we looked at Southeast Asia, and then we looked at the New Zealand, Papua New Guinea area. And then we took a deeper dive into which crafts do we really want to hone in on. And it was from woodwork to braiding to different weaving styles. And that's what we really wanted to make that connection to with the work. And when you see the collection, it does consist of fabrics, wallpaper, and trims. And we incorporated a lot of those techniques into the making of each product. And so we're really proud of it. And
It's by the way, it is so gorgeous. There's a beautiful image of like pieces of all the different collections together. It is just like, wow. It really is a stunner. I wanted to know, because I know that you were inspired by this artist, this Black artist from the 30s and 40s. Is it Lois Malou Jones?
Oh, Lois Malou Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, she is amazing.
Yeah.
And she has all those beautiful masks, right? She was a painter.
Yes, she was a painter. But because of her, Cindy, that's how I discovered there was an actual job called a textile designer. Because she worked as a textile designer early on. And again, I learned about that in my first year in college. That's when I learned about her during my African American art history class. And that's when I was like, oh, I never heard of that before, And I mean, yes, she was a painter. And of course, like most artists, we work in different mediums.
Right.
We've worked in different styles of art. But like she's one of my girls in my head.
Yeah, totally. And I saw that she paints a lot of masks. And I thought that one of the wall coverings looks like, that you were inspired by her, which it's so, I love it. It's so chic and it's so gorgeous. But also she was a good representation for you. And, that's something we talk about a lot right now when we're talking about diversity, is that, how do you have mentors, right? How do you have mentors, and how at a very young age do you even know what art and design is? Mm-hmm. And so that takes a lot of education. I love that she was an artist and an educator.
That's right. Yep. And like many had to, and to be honest, many had to be in order to support their art careers.
Right.
But yeah, they go hand in hand anyway, the education as well as the actual making of art.
Yeah, for sure. And you will, and that will be something you give the world as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's in my cards, Cindy.
I think it's in your cards. Okay. I know, right? All right, so then let's talk about the obsidian. The obsidian house. Yeah. I love the name. It's a protective stone or a shield. So right. Tell us about this virtual house.
Well, the Virtual Concept House, it's our legacy project. For the Bad Guild, we have our creative incubator, and our first project is Obsidian. And we really wanted to take a look about what does it mean for Black bodies to occupy space? And we really thought about, especially because we came up with this idea during COVID, and thinking about health and wellness of the Black family, and how could we create space and use design as a tool to empower the community, to promote wellness, thinking about sustainability, innovation, technology. How could we think about all of these things in this space that we're creating? And so we wanted to position our members as creative thinkers and think about design, not just for pretty spaces, and as I said, but how do we empower the community? Yeah. And that is like the birth of Obsidian. And so 2 architects on our team, Nina Cookjohn and Layden Lewis, they designed the structure. And then we invited 21 other creators to design the interior spaces. And each one has a different story relating to the diaspora from various aspects. Because the idea, Cindy, was there was no client. So we got to do whatever you wanted. Because you know how it is. You know the industry. When you have a client, all these restraints. So you have a blank canvas So you get to do whatever you want as long as you're thinking about those principles that we shared. And it is a fully immersive virtual experience. It has its own website, obsidianbybadge.house. And we really are excited to share it with everyone.
Yeah, and you worked on tile. We're going to get to your ceramic, your love of ceramic, and mine too, by the way. But let's talk about these beautiful tiles, and that they were etched with family members' names, right? Leaving that kind of that mark.
That's right. I actually created the Sankofa legacy wall because, Cindy, I was thinking about the archives in the Black family. My grandmother, I talked about early on, I never actually had a chance to really meet her because she passed when I was a baby. And so that whole grandparent experience I haven't had on either side. And I thought about, well, what happened to all of those things that they had, the photographs, the videos, the mementos? How do we preserve that, And I think about those next generations, like I would want them to go back and see, like there's this whole collection. And so I used clay because clay keeps us grounded. It's that material that we all touch each and every day without even thinking about it. And we take it for granted because it is under our feet on a daily basis. But it also is a part of the African Black diaspora experience of life, thinking about the idea, it's life and death is a circular motion. There's these eternity. It's not a linear process. And so I thought, what better way to prepare for our death by living and really holding on and preserving the things that keep us close to our memories of our loved ones in a space that is protected at all times. And how do we use technology to recreate those moments that we may not have had? So the wall is voice activated. So I could say, what did grandma look like when she was 15? And then it would appear on the screen. Maybe it's my mother's 75th anniversary, birthday, or whatever. Like all the screens would change into her life story. So the idea is that it had multiple use. It would hold our wills. It would hold our trust. It would hold land ownership, like all the important documents that a family would have to hold on to. This wall will preserve it. And then the etching, where the carvings with the names as well as the pattern, it really helps to keep the family close to those ancestors, because part of the tradition is we look to our ancestors for guidance. And so what better way is to go to that wall, sit next to it, touch it, and just ask for that guidance and just feel close. So you could always, keep the memory of whoever, whether they're living or not, but that wall would hold those memories for you.
That's so beautiful. And, it's a virtual house, but it makes you want to feel like you were there, right? Like having that really makes like you want to touch and connect. I don't know, maybe someday that'll be somewhere, right, lady?
That is our goal.
I know. I'm like, okay, let's throw it out there to the world.
That's right. We want to do that. But Cindy, we've been talking to museums, about even bringing certain sections of it to life. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so I feel like there will be opportunity for people to actually experience Obsidian in person.
Good, because I want to touch the wall. I have to touch your wall, okay? All right, so let's talk about clay and your love of ceramics. Everyone should know right now, Melanie's back in school, like, because this girl, she doesn't stop. And really, and what I love so much is your hunger to learn. Your hunger to learn and like you said, learn histories and traditions of your ancestries and of places all around the world. So how long ago did you start working in ceramics?
It's been 3 years now. We're talking. Yeah, like towards the end of 2018, I took a class, but 2019 is when I was really into it, full-fledged. And I started grad school just in September of 2020. So I'll be in history, the first class to graduate during the COVID period, because we started right when we're in the, pretty much the middle of it. So we haven't had the traditional education of in person. My professors don't come to school. So everything's been online. The good thing is, as a grad student, we have our own private studios.
Wow. So, tell us some of I know there's a beautiful series called Redemption that you've been working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I was looking at the gele head wrap as the signifier. And
Mm,
the geles are the head wraps the Yoruba in Nigeria use. Beautiful, head ties.
yeah.
And the idea was I was really interested in the folds and how fabric could weave into our lives and thinking about creating vessels mimicking that process. So the vessels that I created from that collection are each woven by different strips of clay to kind of mimic the idea of this wrapping and the wrapping of history, the wrapping of experience. And when I'm hand building, that's what I'm usually thinking about. I'm thinking about my life, my journey as a Black woman, and then the women who came before me, and how does that translate into these vessels? So that is, it's an ongoing collection group of work. I don't look at it as, oh, it's done. That is just the beginning, and I employ different techniques, different hand building techniques, as well as hand carving techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's like many, like as you said, techniques that is something like harder to achieve than something else for you.
I will say longer process. The carving is a longer process, but it's very meditative for me. So I actually really
Mm.
enjoy that part of the process. And I explored different clays from red clays to black clay too. So that is also cool. And then the patterns that I'm using on the outside, they're
Yeah.
all freehand. So I'm not like creating a sketch. It's all freehand, done with different types of squeeze bottles and wax resist. So I was also looking at the Adare fabric from Nigeria, which is a wax resist
Mm,
fabric. So I was mimicking those techniques in clay.
wow. And what about like colorations? Because that's a whole other piece
Oh,
of, yeah.
it is. And do you see why how some ceramic artists they don't use glaze too much?
Yes.
Because it is a whole nother part
It's
of
a
the
whole.
it is.
Now, speaking of the creative process, something I think that's probably like quicker that you do, that's also quite beautiful. I love your paintings.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
And
Yes.
it looks like you do two different kinds of, like, I love the that very free, it looks very quick. Like, how does your hand move on those? Like, how do you describe those?
That's when I say, just let go. Don't even worry about anything. Like, this is not about things being in proportion, is you're not really trying to draw a human being exactly. Honestly, I feel like that's what photography is for. The creative part of being the artist is you get to change all of that. So why do I have to stick? And I don't. And plus, I love watercolor as a medium.
Yeah.
And watercolor, if you've worked in it, it has a mind of its own. And it's very hard to try to replicate anything in watercolor. So I really love that. So I'm always creating one of a kind items.
Yeah, I love that too. So it's like everything now to me is, even the virtual is very tactile from you, right? Yeah.
It is.
Oh, Melanie. So can you kind of describe, because you're like such an inspiration for a lot of people, especially right now when the world needs a lot of healing.
Yeah.
Um, where are you right now in your journey? We say it's always about a journey. Like, how are you doing, and what do you see in the future?
Like everybody else, I have my own personal struggles that I deal with. But I believe in therapy and I believe in support. I'm not one of those people who's afraid to have those conversations with professional help because,
Yeah.
the accountability really makes a huge difference, especially, having a therapist, in the Black community, there's a lot of stigmatisms around that. Like, we don't need that, but we all do, to be honest. And that my art is also my outlet for expressing myself.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Cindy, right now, because I'm not tied to like any outcome to what I'm doing, there's a lot of freedom in that. And I think if we have to let go of a lot of things, and we have to I'm constantly thinking about, what do we let go of and what do we leave behind and what do I carry with me moving forward? And
Mm.
it's a constant question. And I don't think there's one definitive answer. But I think when we think about where we are at this moment, that there are things that we'll let go of and it's okay. And then there are new things that we'll pick up. And I'm really excited about what I'm going to pick up next.
Right.
And, and just celebrate those moments from the past. Like, that was my thing, back for that period of my life. And that was good. But I've grown and I want to continue to grow. And I think that's really important, Cindy, for us to realize that growth is a constant thing if we choose it to be. I'm not interested in treading water. I want to be a swimmer. A swimmer will swim as far as they can. And I'm very interested to see how far I can swim on this journey.
Your talent keeps exploding. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of ways to share your language. And it took your own courage to do that, so I am really so proud of you, and that you have this enormous talent, but also a voice for positive change in the world. And it's you. So I want to
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. And thanks to our badge folks.
Yes, badge.
Badge folks. Lot of good creativity ahead. And a big hug to Melanie Barnett, who I always think of as Melanie B. I can't help it. Melanie B. You're my girl.
B.
Yeah. Well, lots of love to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sending the love back, Cindy. Thank you so much.
Yes.